Welcome to the Classroom Narratives Healing and Education podcast, the space where education meets resilience. I'm Dr. Joey Weisler, and in each episode, we dive deep into the personal stories of educators, students, leaders, and frontline advocates who are navigating the complexities within modern education. Whether you're just starting your teaching journey or are a seasoned professional looking for inspiration, we'll explore how to foster meaningful change, prevent burnout, and build trauma-informed communities within our schools. Now, let's take a seat at the front of the classroom as we get started. Welcome to an exclusive segment here as part of the Classroom Narratives podcast. You are tuning in at this time to what will be a spread out series of voices right from the heart of the system itself, the students. I recently thought about my favorite text, The Help, where a protagonist works to expose the ills of a system, but in doing so, she must turn towards the very voices that are being suppressed and cause change to begin, one whisper at a time. In this segment, and others to match, I revisit not only the students who formed the heart of the education system, but the very same students who formed the heart to my why. All high school graduates and university students at the time of our recordings. These students will tap into their pasts with me as their teacher, some from their time in middle school. We'll reminisce and talk openly about what worked, what didn't work, and what calls to action we can give onto the system to ensure that every student is equipped for future success. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Classroom Narratives podcast, where in today's series of voices from what I coined to be from the quote-unquote Weisler Alumni Club come all the way back from my first year of full-time teaching. The course that I had these students for was 8th grade English in the South Florida School District in the 2019 school year. I'm so privileged to have Mandy Lanier joining the show with me. And Mandy Lanier is a 19-year-old dancer from South Florida with over 13 years of experience. She's currently pursuing a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in dance at the University of Florida, with also a focus on neuroscience. Mandy also created a dance film called Guys on Every Corner, which was featured at the ACDA, or the National Dance Conference of South Carolina, representing the University of Florida. She shares her dance performance and collaborations on her YouTube channel, as well as TikTok, and collaborates with other dancers often. She also works as a dance instructor and a musician, as indicated in her LinkedIn profile. Check it out in the show notes to learn more about her. Mandy, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show. It's such a privilege.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Ryan Romero, also known as DJ Romi, is a second-year communication major student at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He says to always remember, todo es alegre, or everything is joyful. Brian, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Professor Weisler? How you been?
Great to see you again.
Likewise.
So, speaking in context, fall 2019, my first year of full-time teaching, is an era that I speak about quite often on this podcast, because this was a time where we as a community were exiting the commemoration of the 1-year mark of the Stoneman Douglas tragedy, and where our classroom was just one city over, as we're working to just really make sense as to what trauma-informed learning means and meant during that time. So my first question is, in terms of being a student in the K-12 system, we can talk about college as well, but I'm most interested in K-12. How did education itself either help you or heal you, and especially in thinking about the trauma behind Stoneman Douglas or even COVID? How did that shape you, and where did we succeed you or fail you? And how can we as a system make it better for other students?
Yeah, well, the system definitely shaped me in a variety of ways. I would say the biggest help was the fact that it nurtured my need to know more. I feel like I was constantly pushed from a young age, especially in middle school, to keep going for more and more and more. And as soon as I would learn something, I was pushed to learn the next thing, which I think cultivated this sort of hunger to know a lot within me that's been successful. And it's been a big help as I've gotten older. I think something that it failed to do, though, was like fully engage us as students. I feel that for the most part, with the exception of your class, of course, for the most part, I noticed an overuse of like recall based testing. And I felt like though we were being pushed to know more and more, it was kind of just so we could pass the test, make the grade, and then forget about it all later, rather than having like a scaffolding lesson plan that we built upon as we went. This is why when I was in grade school, I gravitated towards math so much because I felt that everything I learned, I had to apply in the next level in order to like continue my knowledge. Versus in a lot of other classes, I could completely memorize something and then completely drop it and just keep going, which was, I feel like, something that we used a lot in elementary and high school because everyone was just so obsessed with achieving these grades and like writing the essay, doing the paper, doing this, doing that. But like nobody was actually learning. So I feel like that was definitely a massive failure on the education front. Though it did push me to be able to learn a lot, which I'm glad. I feel also through the trauma, I found the system to be quite unforgiving of everything that was happening. I did not go to Stoneman Douglas. I was obviously in middle school. I didn't live in Parkland. However, I did dance with one of the people who passed away in that shooting. And even though all of my teachers and the higher ups knew that this had occurred, nobody really cared. Like, I didn't get much sympathy beyond, like, I didn't get much sympathy, period, actually. They would encourage me to go to the counselor, but, like, they didn't understand that maybe sitting in a room with somebody who I wasn't comfortable with, like, wasn't what I wanted, and I felt like nobody really cared if I was going through it or not because my grades were always good. Maybe if I had some sort of academic drop off, then they would have cared more, but I felt like I was always just perceived as like a number throughout everything, and no matter what was going on in my own life, really, like, aside from a couple teachers that I had personal relationships with, in general, the system didn't really care because everyone's just a number to it. And also through COVID, I know it was very unforgiving through COVID because I watched so many friends of mine try to combat the burnout that was happening, and their grades were horrible and nobody cared. No teachers cared about it, and there was not a lot of grace at all, and that's something that a lot of us have had to explain in college essays. Colleges are definitely a lot more understanding of what COVID did to everybody, but I felt like being in middle and high school, nobody cared that we were all trapped in our houses in a global pandemic. As long as we were still getting our work done and getting A's, like, it didn't matter, which is something that led a lot of people to cheat their way through everything, which is obviously bad.
But I'm gonna start off with a little bit of eighth grade, and then we'll track back till 2020. But in eighth grade, there was a moment where a group of educators and my mother, of course, they wanted to push me up because you saw like my passion for English and the way that I was excelling in the regular class, and you guys wanted to push me up to honors. And then there was a certain group that all because of a test score, they didn't want to push me up. And I just feel like nobody should be defined by a test score. A test score in reality does not mean the world. I'm definitely not a great test taker. Like, I could know the stuff, I could tell it to you, but once I see that pen and paper and I hear silence, I can't work in silence personally. And there's also just the pressure because in middle school and high school, grades were everything. Grades start determining what college you go into. So when I picked up that pen and paper, pencil and paper, especially in math, it was just something else. So then tracking back a little bit onto the COVID year, I really feel like Zoom was so new at the time, like end of eighth grade. We started, there was no Zoom. They would just post the assignments, you would do them because we all thought we were going on this 2 week break. Unfortunately, that 2 weeks became 2 years. So it was definitely rough because you would get accustomed to just, oh, let me just Google everything. Let's just get this done quick. I don't have to meet there. I don't have to sit there. So I think definitely being in person is a way better environment than being on Zoom. I'm very extroverted. So that's definitely like the way I feel. Then when it came to high school, there was definitely like a growth when it came to like people that actually like supported me because the teachers that I had in high school for English were amazing. I love them all. Learning should be fun. Learning shouldn't be like some professors at the university. It's just them talking, and to me that's not learning. You have to come in with like some sort of way to engage your class, because if it's not engaging, then what are you paying for?
Thanks for all that you've both shared about that. So then, how can we make the existing system better for students? And also, what can you share, if anything and if willing, to celebrate your success since the time you were both eighth grade students in my class 5 years ago?
I think just realizing that students are people too, especially in that middle school age. I think everybody thinks that we were like children. And I feel that now I've earned the right to say this because I am an adult. I like when I was in middle school, I was fully as sentient as I am now. Like I did not undergo any sort of major like crazy development. Maybe I will when I'm 25 and my brain fully develops. Maybe I'm still a kid, I don't know, but like those young kids, they know a lot more than you think they do. And unfortunately, like as everyone keeps getting younger and younger and like cell phones, everything is so readily available, these little kids now are going through things that a lot of people don't go through until they're way adult life, just because of everything that they're exposed to. So they're like mature enough to have a real conversation and figure things out, and they're not necessarily a group of people that need to be told what to do every single second of every day, and they're like actual people. So I think a lot of times I got written off as just being like a edgy like teenager, but at the same time, like I was a real person having real problems. I think just recognizing that these kids that everybody claims to be like, yes, the teachers are teaching them, but at the same time, there is a level of like mutual respect that needs to be achieved where both parties are perceived as equivalent in their own humanity. Like, just because you're a young child doesn't mean that you are not good enough to have a real conversation.
Right. Teachers often walk into the classroom and they put their own voice at the center. And in doing so, they write off the credibility of what the students around them may know. And I think starting at the middle school level, where students have experiences that they can really contribute meaningfully, it's really important to acknowledge that the educator can be the thought leader, but they're not the only thinker in the room, and others can be around them to facilitate those dialogues.
100%. That's something as a dance teacher, actually, that I feel like I've encountered a lot. Most of my dance teachers since I was probably age 13 have like never ever made me bow down to them as this higher power. It's always been told as a dancer that we're all equal and they might have more knowledge and experience than me, which is why they're stepping into this sort of mentorship role. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, their job is just to facilitate growth, not to dictate it.
It's been very successful. I met a lot of amazing people here at the university. I just finished my first year, color commentator for men and women's soccer, DJ for men and women's basketball, national champs for men's basketball. Amazing season. I miss basketball season every day. Um, Work here at the radio station, production engineer. A little bit about that is that I basically record, edit all the liners, PSAs, podcasts, all of that fun stuff, and then send it over. That gets approved. It gets put on the Spotify. So that's a little bit what I do here when it comes to production engineering. I'm also a DJ on the radio, and that's been a lot of fun, but I can't do none of that without the skills I've learned in mastering the arts of talking. And people overlook talking as like you learn talking when you're a little kid, but no, in reality, you're learning talking every day because the more you interact with people, the more you start building relationships, and you build those relationships and just great things come out of that in general. And that's
Absolutely.
stuff
And
you learn in English class when you're with your peers.
I love that. And I'm thinking about what was also a takeaway or even like a life lesson that you've gained from being in a classroom, and how do you still apply it to your own life? And what advice would you have to other teachers that are working to really make a student-friendly or student-centered classroom that you've experienced in the past as well that's worked for you?
Yeah, one of my biggest takeaways actually did occur in your class. It came from the outsiders activity, which I'm sure anyone listening to this might already know what it is because I feel like it's been mentioned in your work before. Let's see, we were reading of Mice and Men, and we were doing an activity on kind of which characters we could perceive as the outsiders within the novel. So we talked a lot about like Curly's wife or just people who are kind of on the outskirts. And then we ended up doing this activity where there was a string involved, and everybody had to grab the string if they felt alone in some area. There was a bunch of like question prompts. I don't remember exactly what they were, but all of the questions had to do with feeling alone, doubting yourself, struggling with poor mental health. There were many, many, many questions. And the score was for us to grab the string every single time that we agreed with one of those things. And then we ended up like arms tangled, everyone's grabbing the string, everyone's holding on to it. And you made this really excellent point to us about how all of the questions were about us feeling like an outsider. But then in that moment, we were all grabbing the string, connected in our feeling of being outside. So it's like, even though we all felt like we were very alone, we were actually all together in that feeling. And I think that's something that I've taken with me like my whole life. And whenever I hear other people say too, like, oh, nobody gets it, like I'm all alone, I'm like, no, you're not. Like it helps to know that no matter how alone you might feel, there's other people who are also feeling alone. And in that you're not alone. Even if you're feeling alone for different reasons, like that feeling of, oh, nobody gets me, like I think everybody has hit that point at some point, and that is kind of what unites us all. And something also that I adopted from that lesson, I kind of took it one step further. And then every time I would like feel like I was completely by myself, I would like look up and like find a cloud and like do the math of how many other people were like also probably looking at that cloud at the same time. And it kind of gave the same vibe as like holding onto the string and then seeing everyone else hold it. So yeah, I feel like it was a nice grounding activity, especially for all of us, like angsty teenagers in that class. We all felt like nobody understood us, but we all actually just understood each other perfectly. We were just all too afraid to say anything about it.
I usually don't say this in front of people because I don't want them to think I'm a little bit nerdy, but I loved, I loved in your classroom, and still till this day, I I read it, The Telltale Heart and The Monkey's Paw. I will never forget that. That was amazing, and that's just, without that, I don't feel like I would love to like learn English as much if it wasn't for that.
What worked about them?
Definitely that little scavenger hunt you had us do.
Oh, that's right.
That's why. Like I said earlier, I love teachers that are like immersive and just like are themselves and they want to have fun too. That's a core moment for me. Just like the Inside Out movie, like the little
Mm-hmm.
circles. That's
Yes.
definitely a core moment. I'll never forget that. Like that scavenger hunt was so fun. Like even just listening to that audiobook, because I personally don't like reading like as much. I prefer somebody like talking it out. Like if
Mm-hmm.
so, let's say I get an assignment for the university. I literally like if there's no way for me to read it, I copy and paste and put it into like Google Translate and I just click, even if it's a horrible like voice, I rather it read itself to me. But definitely that definitely shaped like a lot of love towards English. And I'm not a big poem guy. One thing that I would say that you would do is you would be consistent, and definitely consistency is a key. No matter what you do, you always have to be consistent. What I mean by that is like the phone nap time, you would be super consistent with that. The Snoopy theme, like I love the classroom changes. You know, I was always so excited for the months to pass and see the different decorations. That was super consistent. Definitely consistency is a key. Another key factor is just the teacher like being themselves. There's some teachers that hold back and follow that system, and you didn't do that. You made learning fun. And if I was never in your classroom, I feel like I would still be, like just English is whatever. I probably wouldn't even be a communication major. Who knows? But definitely that's just one thing you did. Like you made us students feel like we were worth something and not just kid in a system that should only exceed like high expectations, high grades, all that fun stuff.
So, talk to us a little bit more about the types of work that you each had a chance to produce in school that you still remember being proud of today. And I mentioned this knowing that, Mandy, you pursue a lot of activities and projects around dancing. And Ryan, you spent your senior year creating a vlog channel that united your entire class of 2024. Tell us about some of the projects that you've done that have still made an impact on each of you today.
Overall, every project that I've done that I've been proud of has come from a place of passion, being excited to do a project on whatever it is I'm wanting to do a project about, and also having the creative freedom to do what I want. I think, especially in a school setting, it's important for students to be able to guide their own learning in a way that's authentic to them. Obviously, some people might not want to do a documentary film or write whatever. And I think there should be different avenues for every student to stay in their niche in terms of what they like to do project wise and still put forth their maximum effort. Because if I had to write a paper for every single thing that I've ever learned, I would probably not be as successful as I've been because I don't love writing papers as much as I like creating films or dances or doing other things. I feel like I have that outlook on everything. So it's nice in moments where I've been able to apply that. Also, some other projects that I do outside of school. I have a YouTube channel, subscribe, everything. I create a lot of dance films, which I love doing. And that all of that is just stuff that I do for fun. The school system needs to do a better job of emphasizing the importance of inputting yourself into the work that you're doing and finding what works for you and knowing that it's okay to stay true to that, even if somebody else is suggesting you do something else. Because at the end of the day, especially when you're in elementary, middle, and high school, I mean, people can make you feel like you have to do it a certain way, but at the end of the day, if you do it with quality, they're not going to give you a bad grade. And I feel that that's something I had to learn on my own because I had so many teachers trying to force their own methodology onto me. But at some point, I just hit a wall and was like, you know what? I'm doing it the way I want to do it. If I get an F, I get an F. But at the end of the day, I was always able to produce quality work and nobody can discount that. So, like, if you're a student listening to this, just do what works for you. Obviously, don't cheat. Like, if what works for you is ChatGPT, like, maybe don't do that. But, like, do what works for you so long as it has merit and you'll produce work that nobody can discount.
So definitely going into senior year, I always say the story and like I'm just super proud of it because our class was super divided. Like if you were there in person, trust me, like you would see there would always be little groups here, little groups there. And the reason why I wanted to vlog senior year was my mentality going into this is like, all right, it's our last year. Some of us may never see each other again. Why don't we all just come together, enjoy the events, like have fun? Why do we have to argue in our last year? You're never gonna see half of these people ever again or hear from them. Why is there to argue? And another part of the reason is all these people always tell me, and I never believe them, and this is how the same story goes over and over. You never believe someone until you're there. I would never believe anyone to say, "Oh, senior year goes by super quick. Oh, senior year's the most fun. You're gonna miss it." Well, they were right. I was wrong. Um, Definitely the vlogs were a gateway to also, experiment a little bit because I did do some university vlogs, but definitely being in the university, it's a total different environment because you're not with the same people like every single day for like every year. But the point of the vlogs were to again bring people together and just document it. So by the first pep rally, the theme was the Wild West. Yes, okay, I remember. So the first pep rally was definitely like an amazing, like I would say, video drop because why? It was Spirit Week that led into the pep rally. We had our class group chat with like most of the students. Whoever wanted to join, we just sent them the code, and that's where like we would keep each other updated, like send texts. Oh, do this, do that. Oh, does anybody like need help with this? And I was in SGA, and my mom definitely like still tells me that I should have went for the AC diploma. Yes, I should have, but I would not have had as much fun as I did senior year than I would have if I went for that ACE diploma. Why didn't I go for that? It's because I just wanted to have fun. And like I was taking ACE classes sophomore and junior year, and that just took up so much time. And I'm like, listen, I'm gonna be a senior. This is my last year in charter. I've been in charter my whole life. I feel like I deserve some fun. So definitely that's another reason why I started the vlogs too. But if I did take those ACE classes, I wouldn't be up there with Mr. Jablanca commentating, him teaching me the ways of commentating, and that led to me now commentating our men and women soccer here at the university. I wouldn't have been able to excel my DJ capabilities in practice while DJing the football games, DJing the basketball games. I wouldn't be able to bring the class together in rehearsing for pep rally, trying to bring fun. Like you said earlier, I live by the phrase todos alegría, everything is joyful. I wouldn't be able to bring that fun into my community. And then by the end of the year, everybody was just so united. Nobody wanted to leave each other. It was just amazing. And to hear my name at graduation be mentioned by both speakers of the Jag Pride Award and the principal is amazing.
I don't know if you remember our class motto on the wall. The class motto that we had is "Our moments matter." And I emphasized to all the students, like, in 5 years from now, when you're in college, blah, blah, blah. And they all laughed at me and poo-pooed me and said, that's his story, won't be mine. And what we say in psychology, the excuse that we lean into is that, oh, they're 14, their brains are underdeveloped. We accept that. But now, like you said, when you get to that age, once you go through it, it's like, oh, wow, that guy from 2019, whoever he was, he was right.
Definitely. I mean, literally just going back to what I said, like you wouldn't believe the stuff people say until you actually live it. And that senior year was definitely like making my moment matter. I actually on my laptop I have your quote that you had on your wall, and that sits on my laptop wall screen. It will never leave, and it's just a photo of like all my friends, like family, people that like I really care about. You're on the wallpaper. It was,
Work hard not to prove your critics wrong, but to prove
but
your
to prove your
believers right.
believers right. Yep,
Mhm.
there it is. My mom has said this so many times, and I completely agree with her. You're at school throughout your core education more than you are at home. Your
Yeah.
teachers are like your mother and father, your brother, your sister. You spend more time with them than you spend with your own family at home
Hmm.
for 5 days of the week, unless you're
Yep.
sick. But and that's true. I couldn't have said it or heard it better myself because your school is your home and your core education is what you thrive on. And the way that you're taught manners at home, like saying yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir, is in reality the way you are taught in school. That's just the way it works.
Absolutely. And it sounds like what Ryan's saying is that authenticity is one of the most important factors that we can have in the classroom. When a teacher is not being authentic, it's easy to catch on to. I think when I was starting to lose my interest, it was very obvious to your class. And I remember there was one time that Ryan came up to me during a group activity. Do you remember this conversation? He said to me, Mr. Weisler, my cousin wants to go into education. What advice do you have for her? Do you remember my advice?
Don't do it.
What was the advice I told you to give your cousin?
I remember this. You said it would be easier to be a garbage truck driver than to be an educator.
That's exactly what
That's
I said.
exactly what you said. I'll
Verbatim.
never
Yep.
forget
Under oath. Yep. And I think when you get to that mentality, it was easy to realize, right, how passionless or how unhappy the system can make educators and students at some point. So, if you could tell yourself either something from either middle or high school, or say something to a former teacher that has impacted you in either a positive or negative sense, or both, what would you say to that person? Essentially, what words of wisdom would you tell your middle school self?
The advice that I would give myself, first of all, I would definitely say, like, calm down. What you're doing in middle school is not gonna impact your life for better, for worse. And it's okay to not get 100 on every single assignment. It's okay to not be the best one at everything. I think it's actually better to not be the best one at everything. So I would first say, like, just chill out and it's fine and you're going to be fine. I would also say, focus on your passions more than the grade. Make work that you're proud of, even if that means it not being perfect. If you are writing something and you're not agreeing with what you're writing, stop doing that and change it so you do agree with it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get 100 on every single assignment, it's okay, so long as you're proud of what you're making. If you're always getting A's or always getting perfect grades, but you don't like any of the things that you're doing to do it, you're going to burn out and it's going to be really hard to get back on track in terms of making things that you like and are proud of. Yeah. So I would definitely tell her to like not care about the grade so much and care a little bit more about actually being proud of the stuff that I'm making, because then the grade will come. If you're proud of what's happening, the grade will come to you. You'll get a good grade. If you're really putting your full effort into everything, the grade will come and you'll be proud of it, which is really important. Versus if you do the opposite, you're just going to burn out and not like anything that you're doing and also not like yourself. Let's see, what would I say to my teachers? I think this applies to basically every teacher that I have had, really. Almost every single teacher that I've had, their class has changed me in some way. And I think it's important for all of them to know that. Even the teachers that I disliked or that disliked me, their class did change me in some sort of way, perhaps realizing that I wasn't fond of certain traits or teaching me what I didn't like, but every class has taught me something. I think that's super important to say. And to the teachers that really took the extra time to get to know their students and just let them know that they understood, even if they didn't really do anything, just letting them know that they were like present in their students' lives. I especially thank them because there's nothing worse than sitting in a classroom and feeling like you don't mean jack to your teacher. And I've had teachers that will tell all of us that we're all there learning from them, that this is their classroom, and that they don't care whether I get an A or pass the exam because it's their class. And to those teachers, I would like to say you're a bad teacher because you should care about your students. And also, it's a huge reflection on you if we get it or don't get it. So I think that is something that is important. But I definitely had a lot more teachers who were concerned about our lives than teachers who weren't. And for all of those, good job on your career choice. You did a good job because, yeah. And also, my mom is a teacher. Shout out Amy. My mother is a teacher, and I think this has given me a very specific mindset when it comes to meeting teachers and dealing with them, because I know that my teachers are people too. A lot of students don't think about that at all, which is completely fair. Honestly, the only reason I do recognize my teachers as their own human beings is probably because my mother was one, and I grew up having her talk about her students and stuff like that. So I've always recognized that my teachers are people. I think my peers could do a better job doing that. But also for all my teachers who are brave enough to show their humanity in the classroom, like, keep it up and we see you. And even though not every student is a dream to have, you are making an impact on their life regardless. And it's okay to show that your students that you're a person too. They'll probably like you a lot more if you appeal to their sense of humanity. Because when you lead a class with ego, everyone hates it, you know. But when you're a person, everyone loves. That's why everyone loved you, Mr. Weisler, because you had that board and you said yesterday I got 2 hours of sleep. And we all knew you were telling the truth. You weren't sitting there telling us, oh, you need to get 8 hours, you need to do this, whatever. Like, you were just an open, honest person, which is something that is lacking nowadays on all sides. So the more authentic and real you can be, the more your students will like you. And if you're a real person and your students don't like you, they're just not the right student, Better to be a teacher that you're proud of and have some students maybe not love you as much than to be a dictator and all your students pretend to love you, but secretly they hate you. That's better, in my opinion.
Preach. Yeah.
I would just really say, just keep being yourself, keep being that goofy kid that tries to bring joy in others, and just don't stop waking up every day and just trying to be better each and every day. For the teachers that have impacted me positively, I would definitely say keep being yourself, keep being like the star you are. You've definitely helped me grow in my way of communicating with others, in my way of just being able to understand writing, being able to be professional now that I'm in university. And for the one, because there's only one English teacher that I just didn't like at all. I'm gonna prove you wrong, and I hope you're enjoying life at home with your cats.
And is there anything that we haven't touched on in our conversation that you wanted to or wish to address, or any final thoughts you have for our listeners?
For anybody listening to this right now, I think it's important to be your true, authentic self no matter what, and let that true, authentic self come through in everything that you're doing. Because as a dancer, I've been taught to let my own personal movement style / individuality come through in every single thing that I do. And that's been hard, but doing that has made me better at dancing, first of all, and also just made me a lot more confident in who I am as a person. And I think it's important to just always stay true to that person that you are and make sure that the things that you're doing and the choices that you're making are aligning with that person that you are and who you are constantly becoming. Because I think a lot of people feel that they have to act a certain way for their job or because of whatever class they're taking or the friends that they have. But honestly, if you try to be something different, it's never going to work, because also everybody can tell when you're just putting on a show.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to let the person that you are and the person that you're becoming shine through in everything that you do, not just in your personality, but in the work that you're doing in school, at work, interpersonally, heck, when you're cooking your dinner. Like, you should be yourself 100% of the time and understand that that's the most important, because if not, you're going to accidentally become somebody that you dislike. I know so many people, specifically in college, that are like in finance, and they believe that in order to become successful in finance, they have to turn themselves into Patrick Bateman. And they have to play the game and get so good at schmoozing that they like completely lose the person they are. But when in reality, the people who are most successful in that field, like, understand their own personal beliefs and values and they stick to them. And that's what people are drawn to. So I think that's really important to like stay true to the person that you're becoming, unbecoming, and reinventing all the time.
I just want them to gain that one, the teachers deserve more respect, because there are some teachers that do struggle outside of the classroom and have a lot of stress of stuff that happens in the classroom, and they don't get the proper respect that they deserve. So definitely respect your teachers. Definitely, I feel like all teachers, because I've talked to teachers before, I've talked to you before. Some teachers are very open to like formatting their way of teaching in a different way, if that makes sense. But definitely just be open with them and be yourself, because if an educator doesn't see you for who you are, like if you're just that student that just, oh, like I don't want to be at school, oh, I just want to sit in the back of class, be on my phone, do nothing. Don't waste your time doing that. Don't waste your time doom scrolling. Show your potential and show your educator who you are and who you can be, because teachers are great. Teachers are your family.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed our first roundtable from the Weisler Alumni panel. And in the new school year, Let's focus on the values of authenticity, flexibility, and mindfulness as ways to become united as students and teachers while making our moments in school matter. Thank you for joining us on the Classroom Narratives Healing and Education podcast. If today's episode inspired you or made you think differently, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment or review wherever you listen to podcasts and stay connected with us on the @Classroom Narratives podcast over Instagram and Facebook. Remember, together we can transform our scars into stars in education, one conversation at a time.